Thank you all for being here this evening. It's hard to believe how far we've come since August. It's been a busy 5 months, to say the least, for my team and I as we jumped right in on day one to start righting the ship for the people of this province. 5 months in which I met with community leaders, with seniors, school children, proud parents, and more. I forged closer ties with Indigenous leaders. I visited all sizes of businesses and spoken with worried owners and customers alike. There's a common thread I saw running through them all. They fear. We all fear COVID-19 and how its presence has been felt longer than we all anticipated or hoped. Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are worried about the economy and what they hear is a dark road ahead. The people of this province are concerned about the next generation and wonder if the only things they'll inherit are debt and dismay. They all work hard, but they hope for more. Their wants are simple. A government that supports them and is working day and night to change what many describe as the dire future of this place. Now my years as a doctor kick in here to give it to them straight, not to sugarcoat it. The truth may sting, but hurts less than humoring the question. And Newfoundlanders and Labradorians see right through that anyway. My answer surprises them. I tell them why I decided to run for this office, why I put my own practice aside, and who I put it aside for. It's not about me. It's about them, about their families, about all our families. I tell them about the challenge we are all facing, but I also tell them about the immense opportunity at hand. All we need is the courage to step towards it together. We need the right team with a mandate from the people of this province to be bold today for where we will go tomorrow. And I believe that is my team. I am ready. The Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador is ready for the real challenge ahead. This election will be about your choice on leadership, who you want to lead the province through the pandemic, who you want to lead through the economic challenge, who you want to sit at the table with the federal Liberal government to strike a new deal. I just visited with the Chief Justice, and she accepted my request to dissolve the House of Assembly for an election across Newfoundland and Labrador on Saturday, February 13th. I know there's been more buzz about an election as of late, and though one has to be called, I truly struggled with this decision. I know safe elections have taken place during the pandemic, but I also know that this is an uncertain and anxious time. With our COVID numbers so low, and after consulting with Dr. Haggie and public health officials, I concluded that the best and safest time is now. The people of this province deserve and desire a stable government with a mandate to work towards securing our collective future. My friends, no other time in our history has any generation of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians faced such a challenge. There is no precedent except the one we will set together. In the shadow of the pandemic or the global economic crisis, there is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here, an opportunity to redefine who we are as a province for decades to come, to redirect our economic path in ways we never thought possible, and to reinvigorate the people of our province to expect better from their government and work with us to achieve it. Make no mistake, this is an opportunity to transform Newfoundland and Labrador. The only question is, given all we've been through in the last year, given the grim financial outlook that we've heard again and again, are we up for the challenge? Well, yes. Yes, we are. I'm up to the challenge. I'm so proud of what we've been able to accomplish in just the first 5 months of this government. Our response to the pandemic has become a nationwide example for others to follow. We have all made sacrifices and followed the direction of Dr. Haggie and Dr. Fitzgerald, never letting our guard down, even as we start to roll out the vaccine throughout the province. We got our children safely back to school and have endured the second wave so far without any major incident. Of course, maybe having 3 doctors in charge was helpful here. For our economy, there was the announcement of $320 million for the Oil and Gas Recovery Fund, $844 million to help with Muskrat Falls, a true direction to encourage immigration, the Roundtable on Gender Equity and the Health Accord. We've made strides towards Indigenous reconciliation and are committed fully to build on that momentum. Yes, our industries are up to the challenge too. Never underestimate the resiliency and innovative nature of this place. They said Newfoundland and Labrador would end at the cod moratorium. They say we will end at oil and gas. But what they miss is how we have evolved these sectors and will continue to redefine them well into the future. On top of that, our technology sector has proven that there are no borders when it comes to the brightest ideas. NASDAQ's acquisition of Verafin proved that. And from MISA to Heyorka, there are many more startups making those same big, bold steps. Newfoundland and Labrador is indeed up to the challenge. Just ask those brave frontline workers who have put their lives on the line for us time and time again during the pandemic. Their heroic resilience inspires us all, and I can't thank them enough. Just ask those who are working offshore, the women and men who have sustained and grown our fishery and our offshore oil and gas. Ask the graduating class of Mealy Mountain Collegiate in Goose Bay, or the young athletes who dream of representing our province, or even like Alex Newhook and Dawson Mercer, our country. Ask the daycare operators, the small business owners, and those who struggle every day to make ends meet, but still rise daily to the challenge and push through. Ask them all if they are up for the challenge. The answer will not surprise you. They are. We are. Years from now, when you are asked what you did for Newfoundland and Labrador during the great pandemic, during the province's darkest economic hour, don't let your answer be, I hesitated. I fueled skepticism online. Instead, my friends, together, let us rise to the challenge so that years from now we can say that we changed the trajectory of our province. We seized the opportunity in front of us and secured the future of Newfoundland and Labrador. We are only limited by our collective will and imagination, and in this province, we all know those are limitless. This will be an election for a mandate, an election on leadership. I hope you give me the nod and the mandate we need to secure a stable future. So as we begin this election, I ask all parties, all candidates, and volunteers involved to please continue to respect the safety protocols in place for the pandemic. For everyone in Newfoundland and Labrador, please know that your safety and security are the utmost importance to us, and we will conduct this election with that top of mind. Thank you.
So, Premier, Saturday election, very rare thing. Why did you choose a Saturday for this vote?
Well, we chose Saturday because we wanted to make sure that people had time to vote in a safe environment, and adding some hours. I know it's not a work day for many, it is for some, but will allow for a more space and more time to execute on the vote in a safe fashion, given the COVID restrictions during an election.
There was a bomb dropped of funding announcements right before this. I mean, how does that square with the province's fiscal problems that you're trying to solve with when you make all these spending announcements?
Well, a lot of these spending announcements were in the budget. They were all worked hard on over Christmas. Like the oil and gas fund that was announced yesterday to help Terra Nova. These are all important projects that we've been developing in the 5 months. I've only been here for 5 months. I think we've shown we've done a lot in 5 months. Let's see what I can do in 5 years.
Premier, what would you say to voters who wanted you to deliver the economic recovery report and a budget to show exactly how bad it is? What would you say to them that you're having an election before doing so?
Well, I'd say to them, look, I promised that I wouldn't call an election in 2020. I didn't. I promised that I wouldn't call an election before a budget. I didn't. The recommendations that Moya Green and her task force are going to put forward are just those, recommendations. They will receive a thorough public consultation where everyone will have a chance to have a say. And then we will table that final report in the House of Assembly. Everyone will have a say. There will always be a reason to not have an election. But right now, I'm following the law, which I always said I would, and have an election in 2021, and I think now is the best time.
When will you deliver your red book of promises?
We'll be rolling out planks throughout the next few weeks, and then the red book will be out so everyone can have a thorough review of it and where we're going as a party and what we want to do from a policy perspective in plenty of time before the ballots are cast. I'm hoping to get it out as soon as possible, to be honest, yeah. So people can have an education on where we stand. I have nothing to hide. Yeah. What's this campaign going to look like when you're in the middle of the pandemic? It'll look very similar. It'll be different, there's no question, but I mean, we've seen that this has been done in 3 other provinces. 3 other provinces have had a general election, mind you, with numbers far greater than we have, but we'll still continue to run it with the pandemic COVID restrictions that public health has laid out, and we'll follow those, and it'll be different. There's no question about it, but we can do it safely, and the democratic process will continue, just as normal life has continued in the face of this pandemic. Will you do a provincial tour with a bus, that kind of thing? We'll be doing a tour and with a bus, but it will obviously be respecting COVID guidelines, and it'll be more of a kind of mobile office with distancing in it, of course. Different than any other elections on a bus, and I've done elections on a bus in the winter in the past, but it won't have that same look or feel, no.
You mentioned how the recommendations in Gingrich's report are just recommendations, but I guess I'm just having trouble kind of, how do you justify sending people to the polls, and then when you talked about, you know, the grim financial outlook for this province, sending people to the polls, having no idea what's in that report?
Well, I mean, the report is just recommendations. I mean, we've tabled the budget. People have full transparency into the state of the economy of the province right now. The report has been, there is no report, first of all. There will be recommendations, and then there will be broad public consultation. There will always be a reason not to have an election. If we say, well, okay, we'll wait until then it'll be about the next budget, and if we say we'll wait until the next budget, it'll be about the fall fiscal update. The truth of it is I'm following the law, which I said I would always do, and have an election in 2021. There will always be a reason. All right. Thanks very much, everybody.
Good evening. My name is Christina Ennis, your Progressive Conservative candidate for St. John's West. It is my honor this evening to introduce to you the leader of the PC Party and the next Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, Mr. Ches Crosbie.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you very much. This election is about jobs and growth, and who has a plan to bring back jobs and get our economy growing again. Full stop. Newfoundland and Labrador's future depends on it. Even before COVID-19 struck, our province was teetering on the edge of financial ruin. Now the pandemic has pushed us over the edge, and we're hanging by our fingernails. The PC Party has a credible plan to bring back jobs and get our economy moving again, which I look forward to sharing with you in the coming days. The Liberals don't have such a plan, but they do have a secret plan to slash jobs and make big cuts to public services. A plan so shocking that Andrew Furey won't let people see it. Andrew Furey's secret plan will mean fewer jobs. And not just fewer jobs in the public service, fewer jobs everywhere. Fewer jobs in your community, fewer people. The continuing downward spiral of our economy. But none of this should come as a surprise. Andrew Furey's first budget promised 13,000 job losses. And that's just the start. If Andrew Furey has the opportunity to trigger his secret plan for cuts, things for Newfoundland and Labrador families will get much worse. Our province is facing a financial emergency, and nothing but a jobs and growth strategy to turn our economy around will do. An urgent change in government is needed before it's too late. Progressive Conservatives have a plan to get jobs growing and our economy back on track. Our plan is to do things differently. As we roll out our plan in the days ahead, people will see the difference. A progressive Conservative government led by me will be a job creation machine. We will roll up our sleeves with investors to get projects rolling and jobs growing. We will slice away the red tape that's tying the hands of the businesses we want to create the jobs. We will drive job growth through targeted tax cuts and make it easier to hire and cheaper to live here. We will demand local jobs and benefits on all infrastructure projects. We will help local companies get a bigger piece of the action here and in markets abroad. The Liberals have given up on our offshore. We will make a national case for strong and fair investments to drive job growth in the energy sector. If Ottawa won't step up, we will. Job growth will bring back our people and grow the revenues needed for the services people require. That's the answer. That's been the missing piece for 5 years. For 5 years, the Liberals have ignored the warning signs of a worsening economy that were plain to see. What they have not ignored is their friends. They took very good care of the lobbyists, the backroom operators, and the political insiders that make up the inner circle of the Liberal Party. The last 5 years may have been tough for us, but it wasn't tough for them. That changes now. The days of insiders and special interests getting ahead at your expense are over. It's time for a government that puts you and your family first, always. Now, Andrew Furey says sometimes you have to cut off a leg to save a patient. Personally, I'd want my doctor to tell me if he plans to cut off my limbs before I have an amputation. And that's not what's happening today. By hiding the Liberal plan for cuts and lost jobs, Andrew Furey is sending the voters a clear message. He doesn't trust you with the truth. He expects you to trust him with your future. Well, here's the truth. No jurisdiction has ever cut its way to prosperity. Prosperity comes from hard work, collaborative decision-making, and a vision. Andrew Furey and the Liberals want us to make do with less. Progressive Conservatives believe it's time to get creative and do more with what we've got. The Progressive Conservative plan is to grow our way out of our crisis, not to cut our way out. Do we need to go line by line and find efficiencies to make our government better, smarter, more efficient? Of course we do. But Liberal cuts with no plan for jobs and growth is a recipe for disaster. When our young people see jobs and opportunity here, they will stop leaving. Growth is the solution to our crisis. Job growth. Jobs generate income, which people spend in their communities, generating even more jobs. Job growth attracts more investment and more opportunities. Newfoundland and Labrador has everything it takes to succeed. We have the people. We have the resources. All we need is a change at the top to make it happen. Andrew Furey is keen to make excuses for federal Liberal inaction. Unlike Premier Furey, we will hold Ottawa to its obligations. Its obligation to join us in a recovery plan for job growth in Newfoundland and Labrador. Its obligation to treat us the same as every other province. And we will hold Ottawa to its obligation as a partner on the Lower Churchill to keep people's power rates from increasing. We will get a new deal through tough negotiation and hard bargaining, the way we've always done. I'm a tough negotiator with a track record of success. I've spent my entire career fighting for justice for those who are denied it. And I'm ready to have the tough conversations the Liberals have avoided for the past 5 years. I have been blessed with my father's fighting spirit and his strong ethics, and my mother's heart. While my father was fighting in Parliament to get federal support for our offshore, I was fighting in the courtroom to get justice for breast cancer survivors, for victims of moose vehicle collisions, for victims of gambling, for survivors of residential schools. Those experiences have prepared me for this moment and have equipped me with the tools needed to stand up to Ottawa and negotiate a new deal to secure a bright future for our province. That's what we need. More now than ever, we need a champion. Not someone who will stand by applauding while we're denied our fair share, but a new PC government that will right the wrongs and get our economy growing once again. It's time for Newfoundland and Labrador to rise on the national stage once again and fight for justice. Newfoundland and Labrador is facing a once-in-a-lifetime economic emergency, and putting our province back on track to prosperity will be an all-hands-on-deck effort. Now, maybe you're jaded about politics. Maybe you don't think it matters who leads. Look south of the border. It matters. Our future depends on the choice you make in this election. Jobs are on the line. This is no time to sit on the sidelines and park your vote. This is a time to step up, as I am stepping up, for Newfoundland and Labrador. This is your one opportunity to say no to the Liberal slash and burn agenda, to say no to those who are prepared to deny the facts and take you for granted, to say no to those who are prepared to see this province fail. Newfoundland and Labrador is bursting at the seams with opportunity and potential. Few jurisdictions on earth can boast the size of population with such a wealth of resources. Energy, forests, minerals, fisheries, farmland, attractions, history, culture. Our people are among the most resilient in the world, tenacious and smart, fighters and survivors, with a dogged determination to never give in and never give up. Others have generated tremendous wealth with less. Just a decade ago, we were leading the country. There's no reason we can't do it again, and do it better, and sustain it longer, for generations to come. This is the reason I step forward to serve, because when I travel Newfoundland and Labrador and engage in heart-to-heart conversations with our people, that's exactly what I hear people say. We're blessed with opportunity, blessed with potential, blessed with a resolute determination to succeed and leave our children and grandchildren better off than we have ever been. Our success as a province is not just possible, it's inevitable if we make the jobs and growth our overriding priority and our driving goal. The future we get is the future we choose. The choice is always in our hands. Let's get our economy growing again. Let's get back to work. Let's bring prosperity to Newfoundland and Labrador. And I look forward to sharing more of our program and our specific menu for jobs and growth with you in the days and weeks to come. I thank you very much, and I look forward to taking any questions you may have. Thank you.
Mr. Crosbie, the timing of this election call has been put into question with it being winter and with the COVID-19 vaccine rollout. What do you make about the timing of this election call?
Well, you know, we offered the Premier a fixed date next October when the pandemic would be more securely put away and when the weather would be more conducive to people getting out and voting. And, you know, I've been on the doors in my own district in the last couple of weeks, and I continually get back from people, you know, people are dubious about having, even though we have a low case count, having an election in the middle of a pandemic, so it's not going to please everyone. And the other thing is, unfortunately, it may tend to suppress voter turnout because of the weather being so bad and because of COVID.
Are you worried about voter turnout?
You know, that's always a concern because I think, as I said in my remarks, leadership does matter. The leadership that the PCs and myself are offering to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador is the leadership that they need at this point in time if we're to have a future, never mind a prosperous future. So I hope that people take to heart that this election is possibly the most important vote we've seen since 1948 when we joined Confederation, because the future is at our feet. One of prosperity, one of growth, one of jobs, one of getting back to work, or a secret plan for cuts. A secret plan for removing limbs. Whose limb will be removed? Is it limbs in rural Newfoundland? Is it the limbs of the vulnerable? Is it the limbs of frontline workers? Tell us, Mr. Furey, where are the amputations going to occur?
After you leave here this evening, where will your campaign trail head at that point?
Well, now, we have a detailed plan for the first 7 days, and if I told you what it was, then it might tip my hand to Mr. Furey. So we've got a plan, and we're going to stick to it.
Will you be leaving the Avalon this weekend?
You know, that's a conversation we're going to have tomorrow morning. A lot of things have happened today, as you're probably aware. The Liberals, under Mr. Furey, have decided to throw a lot of money around without any very good effect. And by the way, all the money they've spent and not spent, because you know, the money supposedly going to Terra Nova, FPSO, that's got more loopholes in it than the Titanic. You know, the Titanic could sail through those loopholes. There's no agreement there except to talk. So that's been a lot to take in today, and that will help to determine what we do in the coming days and weeks.
Do you expect to have a full slate of candidates now heading into this election?
Yeah, we've called nominations in all our districts, so by Sunday we'll have everyone in place.
This province obviously financially is in a hard spot. There's no denying that. The Economic Recovery Task Force's report has always been slated to come out on February 28th. That's the interim report. This election was called before that. What do you make of that now that we are officially heading to the polls as of February 13th?
Well, there's the problem, isn't it? The much ballyhooed and celebrated Dame Moya Green's report, which is supposed to contain, you know, the plan for our future, won't be up for debate during the election. Now, I've encountered a lot of people around the province, including up in Labrador, for example, where I just came back from. I was there for 5 days, and I'm continually getting people, for example, on town councils and mayors, and they're shaking their heads and saying, this isn't right. We should know what's in the Green Report. The election should be taking place after that report is known, what that report is recommending by way of cuts and everything else it might recommend. But that isn't happening, is it? And a lot of people are going to be very disappointed and very disgruntled about that. And that will affect how people vote. So Mr. Furey has, by keeping that report secret, keeping his plan for cuts to rural Newfoundland, to vulnerable people, and to frontline workers, by keeping all that a secret, he's created a problem for himself.
How will your party be conducting this campaign amid a pandemic?
Well, you know, we're going to stick to the rules as put out by Dr. Fitzgerald. There is a set of rules specifically about that. As I mentioned, I've been out on the doorsteps in my own district in the last couple of weeks, and I don't see any resistance except in a couple of cases. There was one gentleman who didn't seem to want to come to the door. But by and large, people are pretty good about it, and you keep your distance, you use a mask, and all the rest of that stuff, and people are generally pleased to see a politician working hard to win their support.
So did you seem it necessary to have everybody here this evening then?
To have everyone, I'm sorry, I'm not...
Your caucus, I mean, there's 33 of us in this room. Did you deem that necessary this evening?
I'm not sure where you're getting at.
I'm just asking, I mean, COVID protocols and that. Did you feel that it was necessary to have everybody here this evening?
Well, I mean, we're all obeying the rules here, aren't we? We've got social distance, we've got masks. If, if you have a complaint, then feel free to file it.
Based on that we are in this pandemic, you have brought up, not that you brought up this evening, but it has been brought up about how you stay together. Not that I'm saying that was good or bad. I'm just merely asking amid a pandemic how things going forward will look.
Yeah, well, I think what we've got to do is stick to the rules that are put out by Dr. Fitzgerald, and that's what we're doing here. Thank you. Anyone else?
What are some of the big issues? You mentioned that you've been talking to some people in your district. What have they been telling you? What are some of the big concerns for them?
Yeah, some of it has to do with, the latest scandals. So, for example, Minister Parsons, the Attorney General, coming out and pronouncing himself innocent and attempting to influence the police investigation. There were several comments about that. And otherwise, people did comment on the idea that there'd be an election coming soon during a pandemic, and without knowing what's in the Green Report. So that was the gist of what I found out on my doorsteps.
How many women will you have running?
Oh, well, you can see there's, I think, 4 distinguished women in this group here. I'd have to do a count. Does somebody know? It might be something like 6. I did a little mental count there a few days ago, but since then we've had other candidates join the effort. So I can't give you, a precise answer, but it's something like that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.